This is the October 4th, 2021 Operations Committee meeting. Present are board members Derricks, Tiff, and Bryant, along with staff Jackie Paradis, Superintendent Anderson, Mr. Johnson from Terry Johnson for first student. We have Sarah on the virtual call and one attendee in attendance here. There's an agenda. Anybody have anything they'd like to add to the agenda?
Time, I'd like to hear an update on Twin Bluff Playground.
Sounds good. We'll do that at the end.
If there's anybody here or whatever.
We have that. All right. First thing on the agenda is the transportation issues. Start.
Hi, Jim. I invited Sarah Houle from the Center for Efficient School Operations and Terry Johnson, our bus manager at First Student, first to go over like how things are going this year, and then after that talk about plans for next year. We want to get started as soon as possible, obviously, for next year. And so I did list some topics we could discuss about this year's operations, so we can certainly use that as a starting point. And then over the last few days, there's been some discussion about the bus pickup at Wakuta, or in Wakuta. So if we could just cover that as well. So Jim, if you're okay with this, could we just have Sarah or Terry talk about, the issues this year and how we've addressed them?
Yes, go ahead.
Hey guys. So let's just talk about Mike Villerin just to start, because I think we've all talked to him, I'm assuming. So Terry, you can help me out here too. I have personally rode the bus down this stop 2 years ago, just to look at how a bus fits down this road. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the area at all.
I don't know. Is Ireland and Jennifer aware of the issue down in Wakuta that just sprung up?
Haven't heard a word.
No. Let's go back. If they don't know, I'm the only one that knows because Mr. Valara contacted me on Friday.
He told me he talked to every board member personally. That's why I thought everyone was aware.
Talk to me.
I never spoke to her.
Okay. Sarah Howell?
Never spoke to her. Never got a call back.
Okay. He never got a call back from you, Sarah.
You talked to Nikki today.
I spoke with Nikki today. After I called, I'm not going to call back from her.
All right, let's hear what they have to say. Okay. Go ahead, Sarah.
Okay, so we've been looking at this bus stop for 2 years now, probably. So it comes to a safety factor. Terry, did you bring pictures with? Otherwise, I can present mine.
You can present yours, but I can give them the pictures too.
Okay. So we have to safely be able to travel the bus down in any situation, and there isn't room on this. That we can barely fit a bus down this road, first of all, with no snow, and then add any kind of vehicle to the road, and we're in big trouble. We really are. So if we had to pass a vehicle on this road, we couldn't, and that's a huge safety concern. And I can't say we can bring a bus down there safely. So if you guys as a board want to determine that that's something we can do, we can,
Let me speak, because Mr. Derricks and I are former bus drivers, and I recall a time or two I drove that road driving a bus. I've been on that road as a person visiting people along there, and it's a township road, which is needs to be 3 rods long, or 33 feet wide, excuse me. Arlen and I both were on the town board. We know about the right-of-ways and that. So up until this year now, my knowledge, I'm just going to speak, we've been going down there, and I believe Mr. Anderson was even down there last year or the year before, the turnaround area, and viewed it too. So this is 1.5 miles long, something from that intersection where the bus wants to pick up everybody down towards Greens Point. So I'm just not comfortable with, it's not safe because the road is wide enough for two vehicles to meet on it.
The road, you're saying the road where their house is wide enough for two vehicles to meet on it?
Talking about the road where the road going down to their place, because Terry gave us pictures of the road where we got a picture
When,
alongside the shoulder and utility vehicle sitting there with cones, and yeah, it looks like a little narrow area down there, but how long is that?
we still have to travel a bus down it.
To get to the turnaround, we have to travel.
How far is that?
Can I get clarity where this is exactly?
Excuse
Is this
me.
down at Greens Point, or is this that road? So you're taking the road and then you're turning down to Greens Point?
At the intersection past the
It's
T
kind of
intersection?
a B or
You go right,
Y
and
or?
the T's, take the right down to Greens Point.
But where we're talking is actually past the Greens Point turnoff, because there's another,
This would be the turnoff to go down below, and this is the road to go where
This is what, this is straight ahead?
That's straight ahead.
Turn
Down,
off, turn off.
yeah, down over here.
Okay.
Back in the olden days.
Yeah.
You're able to go down there.
So what's the issue here?
It's there and actually on the road where you can see the UPS truck. If it meets another large vehicle, we actually have to go into the ditch. And coming from the other side, that goes straight into a ditch.
So this is continuation of this?
Of this, yes.
How far is that, Terry?
His part is probably a quarter of a mile, but then also when we get to that turnaround where you saw those vehicles, they were parked there when I went. That was happenstance. My bus drivers last year encountered numerous times being at the turnaround, and he had to violate some first student policies to go find somebody to move the cars. And one time, Mike's wife actually had to go search out some hikers to
So
get the.
he got off of his bus to do this.
Can you tell me what the request is? What's the issue? What?
The school bus company wants them to bring their children up about a mile and a half up to the T intersection.
The T intersection or the Greens Point intersection?
We can't do the Greens Point intersection because there's no place to turn around there. Before we were able to go down 15, 20 years ago, there was a loop that we're able to go through there in order to make it safe. Where they want us to go is down by their house where this turnaround is. 2 years ago, I was told that there wouldn't be any vehicles in this turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
And we've encountered it many times last year. That delays the bus. It doesn't give my bus an emergency out in case there is an emergency. The road getting to it is very narrow. If we run into something, somebody's gonna have to back up, and we're not gonna be backing up. Or else somebody happens to park along the side of the road there. And we don't know until we're committed as to what happens at that point.
I think the trouble is though, when the Greens Point turnaround went away, Wakuta Township spent about $40,000 to extend this cul-de-sac to have a school bus turn around in. I think it was 2 Lee line specifications at that point. I wasn't in at that point, but the township has already spent money to extend the cul-de-sac for a bus to turn around. I mean,
The
this is,
cul-de-sac's not the problem. We can turn around in the cul-de-sac. It's the traveling down the road.
Traveling down the road and vehicles parking in that area.
but what I'm seeing is inconsistencies in the reasoning for not coming down there, because 2 years ago, the reason was we couldn't turn around in the cul-de-sac. Fast forward 2 years, now we can't pass other vehicles. So I think it's just interesting that there's inconsistencies in the reasoning.
I will give clarity on that. 2 years ago, I was able to do it with a van where I picked his children up, drove them to that T and met the bus. We're not able to do that. Last year, decided to take the, go ahead and see if the bus could work. We met vehicles in the turnaround. He had to get off of his bus in order to find people that had the vehicles in there, in order for them to move it, for us to do that.
Is it a township road from where it narrows down to the cul-de-sac?
That was one of my questions, because we were supposed to meet with the township commissioner.
Yeah,
And-
William.
I'm not even sure if that would be considered a township road that we're going down.
That it is township road. It's maintained by the township, plowed by the township. And I can't speak on behalf of the township, but I'd be more than willing to say that they would post no parking in that cul-de-sac if need be.
No park, are we guaranteed that nobody's still gonna park there though?
I think you'd certainly be able to call the authorities if somebody was
Well,
violating the
but
law.
then our buses are being held up for the time it takes for them to get down.
What would be the situation anywhere else though? I mean, if there was a no parking situation and you couldn't get out,
We don't put ourselves in those situations.
The other stops in the cities were not in those situations.
okay.
And we
Yeah.
actually, we do have, locations within the city that we do not go down for these reasons. And those students have to meet us at a different location.
Yeah, we
Yes,
have,
the first time we talked, because first of all, I did not see, when there's garbage trucks or any other kind of, vehicle on that main road, I didn't see what my buses had to go through until I saw this UPS driver go through. And this is just happenstance.
And I guess I don't really care if there's a bus that comes down there or not, but I have a fifth grader that's being asked to walk 1.7 miles to get to the bus stop. There are no sidewalks. It is not well lit. If we lived in town, the limit would be 1 mile for my fifth grader. So apparently more dangerous situation to walk. You guys are asking him to walk further. It's not acceptable. What are we gonna do to remedy the situation? I don't care if there's a bus or a limousine or a van. That is the obligation of the school district, bus company, to come and pick up the kid. If you'd like them to walk a quarter mile, I believe state statute in townships in Minnesota is to go a quarter mile. I'd be more than willing to have them do that, but I'm not gonna have them walk 1.7 miles. What's the solution here?
Sarah, have you been able to find that quarter mile statute?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Were you able to find that quarter mile statute anywhere? Because I wasn't able.
I haven't been able to find the quarter mile statue either.
The only one I could find was in Michigan.
Yeah, unless you can show us where you're referencing it, I can't find a state statute for Minnesota that has a quarter mile.
That's the information that I received from both of you separately 2 years ago.
Not for me.
Can I give a history?
Yeah, go right ahead.
45 years ago, I'm trying to remember what the situation was there, and I believe, if I'm understanding this area right, where you're at, you would be required to walk over to the Greens Point, turn off to go down. And I have not been down there the last couple of years, but I gotta believe there's somewhere down there in Greens Point where a bus could turn around by backing in the driveway.
They've been developing down there, and also would be private property down there.
Well, I think it makes sense to explore that possibility. I also ran a garbage business for many, many years, and there was no turnaround at the end. It was a matter of backing up that entire, I don't know if that's a quarter mile distance or whatever from that intersection of Greens Point. And so
Arlen, can I just state this? Hauling garbage and hauling children are two entirely different.
I am talking about size of vehicles, the fact that garbage truck,
Oh, okay.
okay?
Oh, I thought you were talking about
No.
us backing up. I apologize.
No, so-
I got,
So I'm saying that's what we had to do with garbage vehicles, is back that whole distance, one way or another. Either you drive in and back all the way out, or you turn around and then you back all the way down. That's not a for that amount of distance. I think that there needs to be a conversation with the township to a solution to this. It should be out there, but I do not believe that we should be expecting a child to walk 1.5 miles on township road if you're on a township road. There's gotta be a solution that's gotta come from our.
Yeah, I'm struggling with this too. 1.7 miles to walk to a bus stop. But I feel the bus company has put a lot of effort into this. And so that's my question too, is there something that the township can do to help come to a solution?
So am I hearing this right, that there's no other children busing in Wakuta Township from Greens Point, or they're all the way up to that T?
There are. The parents are just not as vocal about it.
And so how far are they walking at this point if we're enforcing that, or what is?
We are at the end of the line. Our kids have the furthest walk, so any of the other kids would be less than.
I get it, but I mean, it seems to me from that Greens Point turnoff to, I'm just picturing this in my mind from my, over the time was probably 1 mile.
That's I would say from the Greens Point turnoff to the T is 1.5 miles.
Still 1.5 miles, okay, well, whatever. There's gotta be other kids in there, and I think going up, if they're towards that end of the mile or 1.25 miles, whatever, to get to that T, that needs to be addressed also.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, you bet. Here's my take. A couple things, and people might get offended by this, but that's the way it is. I think communication has failed on here. Talking to Mr. Villara, I talked to Lisa on Friday that he was expecting a response back by the 27th of September, leaving messages that first student weren't returned. Boom, boom.
I did not have a message left at
Then
first.
there's something at, either he's lying to me or somebody isn't giving you the messages. I don't know which one it is. But my point is, my understanding, he had to reach out again today to come up with some answers. Last thing you want is a school board member involved in a situation like this. That's totally, you don't need me to be involved. It's something that should be worked out. He's called the superintendent. Superintendent's been out of town. I explained that to him last Friday. It's a family matter, and he understood. I contacted Lisa, and she contacted, I think you, somebody, I have to ask Lisa, the email here.
Me. She contacted me.
He contacted me and I was out of the office with a personal.
No problem, I understand that, but I asked her to have somebody contact him today by Friday, and I explained to him Friday is probably not the best day for somebody to get back to him. So my point is, this isn't really you don't want an elected official sticking their nose into something like this. This is something that should be resolved on the staff level. And let's try to get something resolved, Mr. Anderson, with this through your help.
The hard part is, Jim, we don't know how to resolve it. That's the hard part with it. It's not that we don't want to bus his students from his house location. That'd be great. It's the safety of getting down there and back. If we could turn around at Green Point, that's where the road is the widest. If we can't get the bus turned around there, even in a safe backing maneuver, we're not supposed to back buses as it is. We can't safely back that bus right there. That would be the ideal place to pick up these students, but we can't safely do that. So it's not that there's a huge lack of communication. I apologize. I've actually been out of the office for a week too. I'm homesick. So it could be some of that on me too. But I do know that Terry and Nikki both talked to Mike today. So I don't know how to resolve it right now. We don't have extra vehicles to use a van to do what we did in years past. Last year was a difficult year for our bus drivers when it came to going down there, and we didn't even bus every day of the year. So it's it's tough, and I don't know how we're gonna resolve it yet. We can keep working on it. I've reached out to William from the Wakuta board, and also Nikki did too. So we haven't heard back from him yet to meet with us. And Terry, myself, and Nikki are all trying to meet with him.
Well, that's, you say you don't know how to resolve it, you just, where you're gonna try to resolve it, so. I would think we would expect some type of further discussion and reviewing this to figure out a way, because I agree with, I think all three of us will agree, a child in the country shouldn't be walking 1.7 miles on a road that's technically 5 miles an hour without a sidewalk.
Yes.
And we got morning, right now we got students, elementary starting earlier, so you're talking dark right there, potentially. So I wouldn't want my child, I don't have anybody that young, to walk that, so I would like hopefully some conversation to continue, to come up with some resolution.
I would just like to add that they're not walking on the street, and just point is, maybe 10 off of the road that they can use to get out there. It isn't, they're walking on the street, and the speed limit is only 30 miles
It
an
is
hour.
30 miles an hour.
It's 30 miles an hour.
Posted.
The walking path is not something that's maintained in the winter months,
That's what
so
my question
that works great until October, but.
And, you know, if it's posted and they go faster, I guess that'd be right along the lines of a no parking.
Well,
Are there any other areas where kids are walking that distance to get to a bus stop?
No, this one is a unique situation, because I went in with just the one thing about the turnaround, just to make sure. And then, like I said, it's the lack of shoulders. It's the lack of, just many things. It's a culmination of a bunch of different things that, you know, dealing with the safety of the kids is just sending red flags up for us. And, you know, that's where it comes from. Like I said, I will do whatever the board tells me to do, but I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't explain the objections I've got to it.
and let's get back to that 30-mile-an-hour speed limit zone real quick here. Harlan Brothers, my past was, unless it's applied for through the Department of Transportation for the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, and granted by them, you can put whatever signs you want. It's not enforceable. The state statute of 55 on a 2-lane road would be the statute that, if somebody got ticketed for it, my guess is they'd have to go back and look to see if it's actually approved by the Department of Transportation. I know because I lost a traffic ticket once on something on a road like that. Not mine, I issued one. I didn't, and they got thrown out because it wasn't.
I was in law enforcement, so I get what you're talking about.
Okay.
And I think there's also a law that says without any posting that if you have a home or driveway every, I think it's like 300 or 400 feet, I'm not sure what it is, on average over a distance, that there is an automatic speed limit, I believe, of 35 miles an hour. So,
I don't know about that. I've never heard.
so there is one of those too, but that's not solving the issue here.
No.
Can I offer something where I shouldn't really probably say anything because I shouldn't speak for town boards or anything else? Yeah, it looks like somebody made an effort at one point to make a turnaround at the end of the road where you're at, and it's not working out. If that's not going to work out, I'm wondering if the town, Wakuta Township would be receptive to working on making a turnaround at the Greens Point where it splits there, and they got that between there and that walking trail, there might be enough way to fill that in and make a bus turnaround at that point. I don't know, I'm
Yeah.
speaking way out of my league, but I'm just wondering if you talk to the township, if you wanna throw out that idea.
I think that comes to the state level, because that's a state, is that a state park or a county park? It's a state park.
But the right of way has gotta be going all the way over to that trail, isn't it? Or not?
That I really couldn't.
You got 33 feet from the center line of the road is generally township road, depending on if they're platted or not. That's where Jim was saying, but it's not the whole difference, 33 feet from the center line.
I think there are some just where Greens Point splits off of Lakeview, there are some geographic limitations there where I don't know enough about it, but I just.
I don't either, but I'm
I don't
just
know how
putting
you
that
do it.
out as another idea to look at seeing if a turnaround could be made.
I mean, one of the things,
Cooperation with the town, I mean, if the township would accommodate it, I guess. They want to help, I guess.
something that I think, now that you've mentioned that, something I could talk to the township on, maybe talk to the state, is maybe you can put a parking lot at that end, or some kind of thing for the trail.
It doesn't solve immediate things because it'll take time to do
But
so unless you can get by with a couple
like I
of
said,
travel.
you know, that would solve a lot of different things, you know, if I had an area to pull in and pull out.
And I
that's
think their
something
idea
maybe
of
they-
the turnaround was for buses, but primarily for emergency response vehicles.
Yeah.
Fire truck, ambulance.
Yeah, because like I said, when I saw the UPS truck driving into the ditch, that worried me. All I'm thinking about is during the winter, because I actually got I was the one driving his children, and I got the van stuck out there one year. So, it's just one of those things where, you know, maybe that, to me, something like a good turnaround would work. I don't know what they can do with the state though. That's the.
Well, let's keep Mr. Villara, is it?
Villarreal,
Excuse me. How about Mike?
that's fine.
Inform, regular communication. He shouldn't have to reach out to you to see what's going on. And let's come up with some type of solution.
I guess I just would like to say this. I'd like to see a solution tomorrow morning. I know that's not realistic, but we started this conversation 2 weeks before school started. So we're 6 weeks into this conversation and we still don't have a resolution. After doing it 2 years ago, I shouldn't have to be doing this. This is not my job. This is not my job to figure out how First Student can do their job or how the district needs to do their job. That isn't my job.
I'm not saying it is yours.
No, and I know you're not, but I think that it's adding to my frustration level that here I am, 5:20 on a Monday night, missing my daughter's volleyball game because I'm working out somebody else's issue. And I understand that I have an obligation as a parent to advocate for the kids, but super frustrating and super disappointing.
Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, all I can say is that 2 years ago, when the first issue came up, we spent considerable time, looking for the solution. In the end, I joined, I think Terry, maybe Sarah, and some others down on the roundabout, and we made it work that year. That would be our preference. It really would be. But I totally understand the circumstances we're in now. We can't have bus drivers getting off the bus to go find people who've parked in certain areas. We can't be sitting around waiting for a vehicle to leave the road because we don't want to go in the ditch. One solution would be to go ahead and pick up, the child in the roundabout, as long as the board is okay with delays in providing transportation to the kids on that route and to the kids on the high school routes, or the route that would serve, that uses that same bus. I mean, that's a possible solution so that the bus driver doesn't have to get off the bus or, swing possibly onto the ground right by the ditch there. I don't like that solution. What I think, there's kind of a short term and a long term. I view working with the township as a possible long-term solution because they aren't going to be able to build a roundabout or widen the road, before winter hits. The township supervisor was very willing to consider some, whatever it takes, essentially, attitude, which is really good. So we can follow up on that. I just don't have a good short-term solution. I just don't know what it is. But we'll keep working on it. That's not the answer that Mike wants to hear, but I can tell you that we've been working on this issue as well, because we'd like to provide the transportation on that roundabout.
Okay. We want to update at our next operations meeting as to how that's going, and Mike can contact Superintendent Anderson, Terry, or Sarah, if he has a question or finds out further information that he wishes to share on behalf of a Wacouta resident. But we have to figure out something, because I don't want the child walking, because once he said that trail, that walking trail is used by quite a few people, which is great. It's not plowed in the wintertime. So snow ski, snowshoe, whatever on that trail. So that's even more.
The other thing I just wanted to address quickly is that, I believe Sarah said that she didn't get any messages from me. 384-795, option 3, left a message on Monday around noon, Tuesday around 12:15, and Wednesday around 12:15.
She was gone, she said. She should have put.
Somebody should have picked it up.
Something, yeah.
Somebody should have picked it up.
My number.
Yes, I, from calling you today, so.
Here, actually, I'll give you my card to my.
I will not be calling you tomorrow, Mike, because you've heard everything today.
Yep.
Sarah and Terry, if you don't mind, I can certainly reach out to the township supervisor.
Yeah,
And-
we've called, and I know that he received Nikki's email today because Mike was given Nikki's cell phone number, and that's how he got it. So I don't know why he's not answering to meet with us, because I'm pretty sure he's the one that volunteered to meet with us.
We spoke this afternoon and just decided, he had some other obligations this evening. We decided to just have me come to the meeting, and I was just gonna fill him in tonight. Be more than happy to have him reach out to you tomorrow. Is there a direct line that I could give him?
I'm still gonna be out sick this week. I'd really like him to. Nikki sent him an email. She can coordinate a meeting with him. So if he could just respond to Nikki, that'd be great.
Let him know.
Okay,
And Jim, to answer your previous comment is, we can give a report to the board in 2 weeks, so that it's, we don't have to wait till the next operations committee meeting. So we can do it at the board level and then again at the operations if we need to.
could you be the contact for Mike from the school?
Sure.
Carson?
Yep, that's fine.
Email your preferred contact?
Email's your best way, or phone number, phone call?
Yeah, I'm in Montana until I'm coming back on Thursday. So how about if I respond to Mike with the best way we can chat over the next couple days?
Hey, Carson, if you're okay, I'll just give him Lisa's information. Is that okay?
Give Lisa's information. What do you mean?
Contact at the school to get a hold of you.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's fine.
I'll just give him her direct line.
Okay. All right. Beat that one pretty good. Sarah?
So thank you, Mike, for coming to the meeting. And we'll keep working on it. Sarah and Terry, can you give other updates?
Sure. Terry's busy right now, so Sarah, if you want to go ahead first.
Sure. So the next one we've been talking about is Highway 58 and how to get more of our students on the bus so they don't have to cross Highway 58. Terry's been working on this one also. I think we've just done load counts on our buses, so we can start adding some kids to buses. And I think we're going to have to do a centralized stop. I contacted the college today. I haven't heard back yet to see if we could put a stop over there, so we can get kids across 58 on a bus, so they can, because we've heard that's a safety concern that we'd like to address.
Just ask a question. I've seen kids crossing that through the light at Pioneer, or 58 Pioneer, Flower Valley County 21. They crossed when the walk sign's on. Is that somebody run a light or something, hit somebody in the crosswalk? Is that what precipitated looking at this further? I heard a child was injured. Was it there or over at Guernsey?
Karsten, do you have, I don't know the details on that student. The hard part is that student has a bus, like she has a transportation set up and chose not to ride it. So that
Yep,
one's a little difficult.
my understanding is that it's at that intersection by the, the gas station. I can't remember the road names, if that's Flower Valley or Flower Valley and 58. So my understanding is that it was at that intersection. So there was, with a stoplight. So I'm not sure the details beyond that, but that's my understanding.
The status of getting a crossing guard there.
Yeah, I sent a message to George after the incident or after the accident, and he was planning to reach out to paraprofessionals to see if anyone would be willing to take on some extra hours so they could serve as a crossing guard. I have not heard that he's found anyone yet. It's been several days. So, we were hoping somebody would take it because the person could earn some overtime. If they're already working 6-7 hours a day, we could add maybe 3 hours to help in that way. So that would be one solution. The other solution is what Sarah suggested, where we just assign a bus to be at the college at a certain time, and give enough time so that they could just drive over to the high school, drop the kids off, and then the reverse after school. That's probably the best long-term solution. Because we can make sure that a bus is there at a certain time each day. We don't have to, what happens if the paraprofessional is sick, for example, then, we aren't able to cover it sometimes. So I think the best solution is having that dedicated bus. Sarah, when do you think that we'd be able to assign that bus and then let parents know?
So we have to work through it. It potentially will have to be more than one bus. The hard part is how many students are going to use it. Right now, probably not many because it's still nice out, but it's not like it's a whole ride home either. So it's tough we don't have a ton of space on any given bus, so it will have to be a couple buses. And so we just started identifying that. I have to get permission from the college. So, but I don't think we'll have a problem with that either. And then so we're just going to have to kind of put out a mass communication because we don't have that's the difficult part is who do you communicate with? We don't know who's going to use it. So it's going to have to be just kind of a blanket statement of if you would like to have a bus to cross over Highway 58, because I don't think we're going to require them to use it. Because some students are crossing just fine at the cross stop or at the light with the crosswalk. I know Terry, I don't know if he's back in there yet. He tried it out himself even the other day. Terry, didn't you go and cross the street by yourself the other day?
If you push the button, you got more than enough time to make it across. I can make it across and still have about 30 yards where I walked before it turned. I did notice that if you don't push the button, yeah, it's a quick change.
That's what I was gonna say. I've noticed the exact same thing, and kids are not pushing the button.
Yeah.
And they're trying to cross.
Yes.
And I feel a crossing guard would be a optimal
Yeah.
choice because they can make sure that button is pushed, stop kids from going, because I think that's the issue. Kids are not being smart at that intersection.
Or they just don't know because it turns, it lets you cross without pushing the button. It's just, if you don't know, so if we had a adult supervisor there that could just even push the button to make sure that's happening. For me, like that seems like the easier thing because right now we can route buses to go there, but who do we communicate with? Who's going to use them? Those are the questions that we have, so we can start that. It's Monday today. I've been sick for a while. They all blur together. We could start that by the end of the week even, but it's who do we communicate it with?
I've got a question.
Yeah, I don't think bus is the answer because the bus is only good if you're there to go and get on the bus when the bus is ready to go across and back, unless you're going to have continuous rotation of it doing several trips back and forth.
Mm-mm.
We have a situation that's not optimal, but how many years has this building been here and people crossing Highway 58? Maybe we're living on borrowed time and something should have happened earlier. I do think we need to address it. And we say that we're trying to get paraprofessionals to step in. What is wrong with the idea of just plain hiring somebody to be a crossing guard in the morning and somebody to be a crossing guard in the afternoon? And they're there from 1 hour from this time to this time and paying them $25 or even $30. It's cheaper than a lot of these other options. And we're going to have a time frame that's going to have to be more than 5 or 10 minutes of time. But I think if we're looking at addressing a crossing guard that probably is not a paraprofessional is the answer. Maybe it's a student that's at the tech college. If the times work out, could have an extra $25 if they would take the morning shift or the afternoon if those times work. I don't know. I'm trying to say, look somewhere. Don't just say we're reaching out to our paraprofessionals to see if we can add on to their day and give over. If we have this position, we need them to be from this time to this time, and it pays this much money. Plain and simple. And yeah, there's issues occasionally if somebody doesn't show up, but on those days, without a crossing guard, optimally we find a substitute. But just plain, quit this. Let's see if we can get somebody here. Let's put out an ad or whatever it is. We need somebody to be a crossing guard from here, and we're going to pay this much to do it. It solves it real quick, $50 a day.
Okay, so
I don't know if it's that easy, Arlen. I mean, let's be honest. We're having a hard time to fill positions, and asking 1 or 2 people to do it in the morning, the afternoon, at a rate that's more than what any of our pairs earn. I don't know if that's the right solution. However, we can do both. We can try both. I mean, I'm not opposed to having a bus and hiring either a para or somebody for 1 hour each day. And so we can try all three, and hopefully one of them will work, but we can do both, or we can do both or all three. So that's
pursue all options until we find something that works.
because the bus isn't costing you anything extra. It's just, we're just as a stop and do it. So it's not costing.
Let me ask you a question. Danielson Drive off of Cherry there, there's some houses down.
Yeah.
Are there any students there? Or anybody over that way on the bus? They're not crossing the highway. You live over that way.
But have you?
My kids are crossing the highway. They go up over the hill through the Southeast Tech parking lot and down to the lake.
To the lake. But are there kids crossing?
Yeah,
Guernsey?
I haven't seen. And
I
that
haven't
would
seen any
either.
cross at Guernsey. When Peyton was at kindergarten, there was a kid who came up from Danielson Drive to get on the bus with her, but most of the time he gets a ride from his parents.
I'm just
Because
asking.
that'd be more concern for me.
That would be me too.
That'd be more concern than actually the stoplight
They,
itself.
they mow a path from Hyde Park Avenue up the Southeast Tech parking
Oh,
lot
that's nice.
for walking.
They plow it then in the wintertime and shovel it, salt it.
I don't
sand it,
know.
and a little refreshments along their snacks.
Now, I might be devil's advocate when we do the thing at the tech college. One thing that I'd like to kind of watch is make sure that parents aren't having their kids get shoveled over to avoid the line going into the high school. That make me come on.
Oh, yeah.
It's
That would happen.
and that's where I probably get over the amount, so Sarah and I will get together and figure out a good solution.
And I think there's kids gonna ride the bus and there's kids that aren't gonna ride the bus.
And most of
They're gonna go
our,
earlier to school, they're just gonna walk.
because when they get to that age, the stigma of having to ride the bus sometimes is.
Although I do know of some families that are right on that mile edge that would really appreciate extra bus ride across.
Yeah,
the highway.
and that's why I'd be more than happy to do. Like they say, I'm all for busing as many kids as I can. I don't wanna hear that I wasn't, but.
Doesn't think that.
Me and Mike known each other for 2 years now. So.
Okay.
I brought this issue up before school started. I'm more concerned with our 7th and 8th graders and that intersection than I am with the older kids. So I'm still looking, I was told we'll start talking about in October, about a solution where maybe we could shorten that bus zone, at least for the 7th and 8th graders and also consider it on the other ones. When I said this intersection been an issue for years, I know going back 15 plus years, there were kids that would park their car at the convenience store and walk across the highway to get to the school because they didn't have to pay for a parking permit. So we had a different situation back then. So there's been people have been crossing the road. Highways designed for kids to cross it.
And honestly, I think that the ones utilizing the bus that we would probably be 7th and 8th graders. Once you get to 9th grade, they kind of got friends or family.
So,
that they can.
but that's my main concern is the 7th and 8th graders that's my first focus, shorten that bus route. But let's see what we can do to help the
Yeah, I think
safety of
these
this
are good
intersection.
ideas.
Let's bring it back up with a resolution, if there's a resolution in our next operations meeting. I know we're board meeting in 2 weeks, so. Okay, anything, oh, you got walking along 58 too.
Sarah, that's already been taken care of, correct? We've already.
Right. Yep, we've
Yeah.
already addressed the kids that are down off of, what is that, 20th Street? Down there, that,
Okay, and then you got daycares, field trips with families.
I guess I would kind of like to address the field trip part. I'll give you a rundown of what I was doing last year compared to this year. At the end of May, I had 23 gen ed routes. I'm down to 20 gen ed routes. I had 13 sped. I'm up to 14 sped, but this is where the big difference comes in. I used to have 2 midday routes, and these are all sped routes. I am up to 7 routes now, and I'm adding some more. So what this does is having all these routes within the middle of the day is limiting the amount of drivers I have available to do the field trips and stuff. The board received a letter from Carol a while ago and talking about the extra things, trying to get. I like to say the ones that want the extra hours and the ones that are doing it, they're the ones that are out there covering my routes right now. Actually, on some of because this is mainly, a lot of this is cobble with the middays because of their programs. So, I had to fill a couple of the monitor positions with drivers, so that even took more drivers out besides the 7 to fill in for those things. The people I got, I keep them busy, just so you guys all know. They easily can put in 8-hour days, and I've been keeping them all busy. And there's stuff available for them out there. I was gonna write an email addressing that.
So Terry, on field trips,
Yes.
if they contact you, somebody at the school contacts you regarding a field trip, do they go through you, and if you don't have help, do you find another school district or a bus service?
Yeah.
Or do we reach out to the bus service?
No, even with the athletics, if I'm not able to fill it, I contact an outside vendor, which is typically, and I pay the bill 2 to 3 times what I charge the district. So I can easily lose $600 that I'm paying out in order to fulfill something.
But they still want you, and that's not right, I get that.
Yeah,
That's not right.
it's
They
just
wanna
what-
go through you though, right?
Yeah, if I got it, I want to do it, but if I, like I said, I take the hit, because it's an obligation I got to the school district. And those are the concerns, and now I'm really gonna run into this, I'm really foreseeing it. I'm not asking for anything, I just want people to kind of be aware of that.
It's nice to know.
It's, Red Wing is very fortunate to have, I am actually fully staffed right now. I got some substitute issues going on because people are going out, but compared to other districts across the street, my sister companies, I'm very fortunate with what I've got. And
we kind of got a little long-winded here. Can we do next year at our next meeting?
Yes.
Next time? I think we won't give it to
Yeah,
notice this time.
yeah,
So,
I'd like to discuss the two tier.
Anything else on transportation? Otherwise, we're gonna move on to try to, okay? Mr. Anderson, did you have anything to add on transportation, or we're ready to move on to the planner?
I think we're ready to move on, Jim.
Right ahead, educational planner.
So
Thank you.
one thing that we've kicked around, by the way, thank you, Sarah and Terry. I realize you'll probably sign off now. Appreciate you
All right.
coming.
Bye, guys.
As we plan for grade configurations for next year, one option for us to consider is hiring an educational planner to work with the community on determining what, if any, more significant changes should happen, and also determine what the grade configurations for each building should be. So that's an option out there. I talked to Pam and Jim about it, and the three of us all thought the same. If we could find an outside funding source to completely pay for that work, it might be worth it. And so I received just a real rough draft from one educational planner just to use as a template. And they estimated the cost would be somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000. And so I was thinking that I could reach out to some philanthropists to see if someone would be willing to pay that cost for us. The positive thing is that we could really analyze options for grade configurations. Do we want an internal Montessori program at one of the elementary schools? Do we want a year-round school or not? Just a magnet school in one of our sites as well. We could look at all those things. The negative is that it will take time. So if we hired a planner, let's say in November, it might be there might be a decision in April, which is towards the end of the year. So those are the positives and negatives. But if you're agreeable to it, I'll at least start reaching out to submit some grant requests to our local philanthropists.
I think this is a great idea. We just went through strategic planning with youth outreach, joining with Every Hand Join, and it makes a huge difference to have someone outside of your organization come in, because they can see things that we can't see, and especially someone who really knows all about educational planning. I think it would benefit us a lot to be able to do this.
Highland?
I'm a little bit hesitant to be spending that kind of money to do it and have somebody outside here tell us what to do. If we can't do a little more internally, but I also hear you, Jennifer. I'm old scale, and I maybe it's time for this dog to really step in. Listen to modern times, and maybe that is. I'm frustrated that our busing is done by consultant. Everything's done by consultant. Whatever happened to us taking care of ourselves. That's just me. So I'm good with it, I guess. Yeah.
I was just going to say, Arlen might make you feel better. I'm not sure exactly what the educational planner does, but if it's like the facilitator or strategic planner that to us, they're not telling you what to do. They're working with you to give you ideas and help you work through those ideas. At least, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm hoping that that person would lead us as a board through us figure out what's best for our community. So they're not telling us what to do, they're just making us more aware of what's out there and guiding us as we decide.
It's a plan that we can look at. And I think with the Montessori school, a little bit more in the community for us to see what we can do and look at how we do things. And yeah, 50,000 was, 5 times more than I was thinking it would be. And but I think if you get outside funding, I think it'd be beneficial for us to at least have those options to look at, consider for the following year, school year.
I'll keep working on it, and then in the meantime here, I did send you an email, Jennifer, to see if I can get the name and number for the planner for youth outreach, if that's accessible to you. If not, I'll contact Mandy directly. And yeah, I hear you loud and clear. I think it's we just want to make sure that we aren't spending general fund dollars in order to pay for this kind of work. I think that's probably an important part. The other thing I'll add is that often these educational planners work for architectural firms. which makes a lot of sense. But that's not, I have no intention of recommending a building referendum as a result of this. So, I'd want to make sure that whoever is doing the facilitating or the planning with us, that's crystal clear. And like Jennifer said, the goal of this would be to facilitate community sessions and board sessions so that we decide what we want for our district. We don't want an outside person to walk in and just tell us what to do. I hear you too, Arlen.
Okay, sounds good. Jefferson Building, we had a nice public forum, open forum, the last workshop. I asked for this to be on the agenda, so we just keep it moving forward. Not giant steps, but just moving forward instead of just sitting back after that public forum. So is there anything new on that?
There's nothing new, except I do know that there are several community groups that are actively talking about it, and which is what we wanted by having that open forum. My question to you is, should I develop an RFP to request proposals to buy the building and or lease the building? Because I could certainly do that in October, and then we could issue something in November to see what people formally have to say. The only reason I'm bringing that up as an option is that a few years ago, instead of just agreeing to terms with one entity on using part of our high school land for a solar garden, we issued an RFP just to see what other people might want to use that land for. So I could either wait, or we could wait and hear what people have to say and then consider them, individually, or I could issue the RFP just to formally set a deadline and hear what people have to say. I'm open either way.
I'm not ready for an RFP yet. We've done 2 of them. I'd like to see the process we started last week continue, and maybe reach out to the city of Redmond. I know we had one representative from the city there, that we are looking at this, and there is interest of various groups, and see if they'd like to participate, and maybe we can just come to an all-around community idea for it that works for everybody before we jump into an RFP.
I agree with Arlen. I know that Redmond Youth Outreach and other organizations have a meeting tomorrow to discuss this. So people are really thinking about it, talking about it, have big ideas. And so I think it would be worth our while to just wait and see what they have in mind and see if there's a way we can partner with them on that.
I think we'll keep this on the agenda. I think at the November meeting, if we don't have anybody stepping forward and wanting to do something, then we can take the next step. And let's see what people out after that meeting. It's only been a week. So let's give them time to digest it, research it, look at it. And I think with this public setting here, with the streaming, it might get people to start moving something and getting back to us in a timely manner so we can hear what they have to say. Okay? One last item here. We got a couple minutes here. Board Member Deary's asked about the update on Twin Bluff Playground.
If there is any.
The only thing I have heard is that it is expected, the equipment's expected to be delivered sometime this week. That's what we're waiting on at this point.
Okay. It's more than we had before. Okay, we'll maybe have an update at our next operations meeting in November then too, as to how it went and started, so. Unless you have some other information before that you can share with us, that's fine too, by email.
Sounds good.
All right, meeting's adjourned. The board meeting starts in 10 minutes.
I'm gonna go and get moved.
Then we can go.
Got the stream on too, Lisa? Okay, I'll call the Monday, October 4th, 2021 regular school board meeting to order. We'll stand, we have to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All board members are present with the exception of board member Roll, who is excused for this evening. Vision disclosure of interest, meeting agenda. Does everybody have anything they'd like to add to the agenda? Superintendent Anderson, that goes to you too. Hearing nothing,
Nothing.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the October 4th, 2021 meeting agenda.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. The educational plan, board member Tip will read our mission statement.
The mission of the Redmond Public Schools is to educate and inspire all students as they realize their full potential and become respectful, responsible, and productive citizens.
Thank you very much. Board recognitions and upcoming events. Anybody have anything they'd like to discuss or bring up at this time? Superintendent Anderson?
Nothing at this time.
The board sends their condolences to you, to your family, you and your family.
Thank you.
Hearing nothing, I have public comment, I see nobody in the audience. Superintendent Anderson, have you heard anything from anybody for public comment?
I did not receive any notice of public comment.
Okay. Hearing none, we'll go on. COVID-related topics, Superintendent Anderson.
So for every meeting, I'll be including information about COVID, including the latest COVID data sheet, which is attached, our learning plan, criteria and timeline for removing face covering requirements, as well as policy 808. The administrative team does not have any suggested changes at this time, but I thought it'd be prudent to include the board agenda in case there are questions.
Okay, just so you know, you're kind of breaking up a little bit in and out, just so, I think we got most of the gist of what you were saying. Any questions?
Sorry about that.
Any questions on this? Hearing none? Okay. Information for every board meeting going forward. School board reports.
Chair?
Yes.
Last workshop, I made some comments and I'd like to clarify and apologize for the comments I made. We're talking in regards to human resources and helping our employees with stuff. And I made comments after reviewing it that were not the way I intended them to come out. I want to point out that our human resource department works very hard. I indicated that they sometimes, the way it came out, which is not what I intended, it came out that people are referred to websites and said, so long, goodbye, and that is totally wrong. I apologize for anybody that's offended by those comments. I want to recognize that our human resource department works very hard. And I also know specifically of people that have had issues that have sent emails and even got responses after hours. So I want to clarify, I'm very sorry for that. And just want to try to make it right.
Thank you, board member Derek. Well said.
Thanks, Darren.
Superintendent Anderson, do you have any topic of school board reports, or do we have anybody here, legislative policy? We just met today in operations, but we'll come at the next meeting for that information. Finance?
Finance.
Who wants to go first?
Becky.
Treasurer Tower will be finance.
Yes, I will talk about the finances. Board member, Brian, can you update us?
It was a very good meeting last Monday. We talked about a number of financial things. We talked about the fund balances, our investments, our final, I think it was the final 2021 budget, the numbers that come in on that. And we asked questions about GCED, the funding, and how those are paid, and the fact that we're staying constantly on top of, if we're meeting the board's expectations of the $2.2 million cuts that we made, stay on top of those. More information to come back. I think we're coming back monthly on that.
Yes, we are. Thank you for jogging my memory. For some reason, I thought that was just a conversation we were having in my memory. But we did talk about GCED and the finances there pretty extensively. And at the last GCED board meeting, this ties into finance, we, as a board, voted to have Five Rivers Online add 4.5 positions to that school, being a school social worker, a school counselor, a special ed coordinator, and a Mars person who could work 0.5 up to full time. But currently the Mars person they had over there only worked nights, and they needed access to the data all day long. And so it was causing a lot of havoc. So the board did approve to add those positions to the online school. And where that gets tricky with our finances is when the board, or not when the board, when Five Rivers Online had a posting on the website that indicated that it was closed. Nobody could enroll any longer because we didn't have the capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So people had been calling Five Rivers, like, do you have openings? Do you have openings? We need to get our kids to school.
That's good.
Yeah, and, you know, I can say as a matter of fact, in St. Paul, they had 400 kids that were on a waiting list that got kicked off the waiting list. There was no teachers. And so they just said to the kids and the families, you're gonna have to go to school, or you're gonna have to find another online school.
Wow.
Wow.
So with big things like that probably happening, not just in St. Paul, but other places, because there is a huge teacher shortage, and they were pulling them from buildings, and then buildings were short. That could potentially increase the numbers at Five Rivers Online that would pay for those positions. The trick was that we didn't take a place from a student in Goodhue County. So if we filled up with outside students coming in, we didn't want to take a place from a student in Goodhue County that would be the spot. So Sherry and Kim are watching the numbers very closely so that if we get to a cap of a teacher's caseload, they will have to come in and either figure out if they have to add an hour or 2 hours or add a whole nother teacher. And what was becoming super complicated was that kids were doing credit recovery and they were needing specific math classes. So we needed people like the special ed coordinator who could come in and read IEPs and help get those credits in order along with the school counselor. So the design is that it could get bigger, given the fact that we now have almost a full school for staff. And we could handle that.
Is it still only open to Goodhue County students?
I haven't gotten an update quite yet because I think what they wanted to do was get the positions filled. So I know that the Mars person has been filled. But I'll hear more than, our next board meeting isn't until November 1st.
Okay. Oh, it isn't?
Nope, for GCED,
Oh,
not for us.
okay.
So for that, at that board meeting, I'll get an update, but Jackie went in depth about showing how the finances were pulled from each district. And she had a quite elaborate plan for how that goes. We were not coming out ahead we were not coming out behind. So
We weren't losing money.
we were not losing money. Actually, we were still way, way ahead
Okay.
in the amount per student and how that worked out. So adding those positions it cut into a little bit into the amount that we were ahead, but it didn't wipe it out. And as the board said, we're not in the money-making business, right?
Right.
It would be nice if, there's a little bit of money left over at the end of the day that could go back to the home districts, but that's not the ultimate goal.
I think we found two there, which I didn't know, Mr. Deere probably did. GCED pretty much runs in the black the whole time, since they can't levy dollars, that never in the red, so to speak, where we could be. And then once they hit their, fund balance of 15% of their operating costs, they then have to give some of that funds back to the participating districts. Right now, their budget, if I recall, they're about $11 to $12 million, so their fund balance is right around 1.2 right now, I think, something like that. I could be off a little bit.
I think 1.2 or,
Something like that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting.
yeah,
I
they
didn't know
can't
that.
bank it. Like they can't have 20 million in their fund
Right.
based on how the finances go. They can only end up with a certain percentage and then it starts to go back to the district. If an outside student comes from outside of Goodhue County, we can bill them for 100%
Of their,
of their school.
Their
needs.
district,
Their
right?
district, so their levy dollars,
Okay.
their all of
Yep.
that money, they can bill and they have to pay GCED, which then helps the cost go down for, that was another reason, adding more students and getting staff organized, so kids, yes.
Then which district does that go to if they come outside of, if money goes, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it just kind of goes into the pot, and then the cost for all of the districts goes down.
Oh, okay,
So it
okay,
wouldn't be
yeah.
like, like
Yes.
Redmond gets 3 and Goodhue County gets 0.2.
Yeah, their
Goodhue-
cost will
yeah.
come down
The
then.
cost will come down.
That doesn't go into the pot that has to go back.
no,
Okay, good. I get it.
yeah, so.
So it's kind of exciting, but it's pretty complicated. But it's the first year, I mean, not even the first year, the first 2 months. Yeah, so
But
that
also-
was,
Good, I'm sorry.
no, that was kind of the gist of Goodhue County Ed's meeting and the finance.
Anybody questions on the finances of the County Ed District board meeting? Any other, school board reports?
Community Education Advisory Council met and, so there's the fall brochure out, of course. And we mostly talked about kind of a recap of summer things. So, Kids Junction had some increased costs because of, transportation to keep the kids socially distanced on transportation. Cost them a little bit more than, a typical year for them. They do need more staff for the after-school Kids Junction program. And if anyone's interested in working for Kids Junction, if you have a school-age child, you can bring them along with you, and their care is free for during that time. So I thought that was kind of interesting. They are, in order to get certain funding, they are doing federal fingerprinting for all of their staff. So it's different than like the fingerprinting that can be done just at the Goodhue County courthouse. You have to go to Rochester for it, and it's really limited hours. So that's a problem for them right now, causing some issues just getting people there. And you have to do that within 14 days of when the person is hired. So it's not like they can, just wait until there's like a group big enough to have someone come from Rochester or something. And then the water park, went really well this summer. Of course, it is not open quite as much as people would like it to be, but a big problem with that is staffing. So again, as we get, look forward to next summer, anyone who is interested, especially people who aren't necessarily like high school or college students who have to go back to school in the middle of August, older adults who might be interested in lifeguarding at the pool, I think they would love to have more people fill those spots. So those are my takeaways.
Okay. Anybody else have any other committee reports? No?
Personnel,
Personnel, go ahead.
we're just in the middle of some personnel things with some staff and some other situations, that it was actually a public meeting that we went to a couple of weeks ago around the staff grievance. So we're hoping to resolve that.
And we're meeting tomorrow.
Yeah.
And negotiations are still continuing for all of the various groups.
I see that, on the committee, that there's quite a few of the negotiations going on, and Cooks was canceled. It's,
Yeah, things have been shifted around a little bit,
And
but
that's
more
super-
continue this week.
Yeah, I think once Superintendent Anderson gets back. Any other committees? Okay. Administrative reports, Mr. Anderson.
I do not have a written report this time. I can give you a verbal update. In terms of the ESSER 3 funding, we talked about that at the last board meeting, especially in conjunction with class sizes in the high school and Burnside. So we did work it into the ESSER 3 application to hire an extra elementary teacher and 5 secondary teachers just for second semester. What we had to give up though, is any funding for the online school next year. So we worked into the application, but that really took the funding for last year. Holly, it sounds like, are you having troubles hearing me?
Yes, so you got cut out right when you said it's gonna interrupt something for next year.
Okay. Maybe I'll try to talk slower. That might help. My apologies for the connection. So in order to pay for that second semester, we subtracted the same amount from next year's application because we have 2 years worth of funding. And so we subtracted from the online school contribution for next year. So it's not an ideal solution, but at least it would get us through second semester of this year.
Okay, any questions on that? So is that, I know there's been a size of classrooms been a discussion. Are we waiting for the second semester to address that, or is there a plan in place to work on it the first semester?
Yeah, right now the our initial thinking is that second semester would be the time to implement it, but we can post. George and I need to talk, and we can post after he's ready with his recommendations.
Okay.
When do we know if that, so the ESSER 3 funding, we have to create an application for it. When do we know whether we have that money, or how is that, what's the timeline on it?
If Jackie's on the line, she can answer that right away. If not, I can tell you that it's probably at least a month away.
Okay. Jackie was here, but she left, so that was it. Any questions? Any further questions? Any other reports?
I
Go
do
ahead.
have a question. Carson, tell me about the conversation around staffing for second semester. I seem to recall at the last board meeting, we weren't moving necessarily into hiring, but we were gonna look at like a bigger plan of what was needed. Is that what you're talking about, George?
Exactly.
Yep, I just wanted to kind of clarify that back in my mind.
And it's kind of a tricky situation for George because the first semester classes will be different than second semester. And so just because we have high class sizes, let's say in English, first semester doesn't mean we'll have high class sizes for English second semester. And so we want to take those teacher FTEs and put them in the spots that actually help. So that will take George, quite a bit of time to review the registration numbers for second semester. And then we will hopefully have a plan.
When does registration close at the high school for second semester?
Yeah, they have to go through. That I don't know. Except I'm sure that they have the information that the students provided last spring, and so they just have to form the classes within the schedule and then make adjustments in that. And so that's the part where I think they need to do some extra work before we have a more comprehensive plan. Yeah, and then as far as the elementary teacher, I'll be working with principals as far as how to place that particular person. I'm much more confident that we can find an elementary teacher starting second semester than I am about core subjects at the high school. The question that we'll have for teachers is it the right thing to do for the kids? Because usually you don't want to make a major change in the middle of a year. So what's more important, the having an extra teacher and therefore lower class sizes, or is it more important for the students to be with the same teacher both first and second semester? So we want to hear from teachers because I'm sure they'll have an opinion.
Okay. Any other school board reports?
Jackie joined on my screen here.
Yeah. Superintendent Anderson, any other school board reports?
That's it for me.
Okay. Ms. Paradis, we had a question, if you're online here, about when the ESSER 3 funding application is due.
You're on mute.
There we go. The ESSER application was due on Friday, and we're waiting for MDE to review it right now.
And when do we think we'll have an answer on it?
I don't know. Everybody in the state was due. It depends on what order we got in the queue. It could be many weeks before we hear an answer.
Thank you. No other administrative reports then?
That's it.
All right. Agenda. Are there anybody want anything pulled from the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Board Member Ossendorf, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Tower. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And do we have any donations and grants?
I'm sorry, Jim, I don't have the board packet in front of me to recite those, if any.
I didn't see any on the list, so,
Nope, there are.
okay. I didn't think so, I just have the agenda in front of me here, the book's not here.
Yep.
Into, social media posting policy first reading. Superintendent Anderson.
Yeah, and Ann Robertson is on the call. She's the one who identified this as a need and can explain the reason for the proposed policy.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here. Nice to see you. We met with the Legislative and Policy Committee. We selected, we believe that fit under 908. And I think there's some echoing going on. I'm sorry about that. I'll do the best that I can. Basically, the purpose is to follow kind of what we've seen some other school districts do with social media policy, doing this as an extension of our classrooms, especially for instance, the high school, Twin Bluff, Sunnyside, Colville, Burnside, what they have Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram accounts. And we want it to be a safe place for kids to go and see their things are celebrated. So that was kind of one of the driving factors. And then also, of course, the whole national tension that's been taking place at school board meetings and directed against school board officials too was one of the things that we looked at. And so we drafted a general policy. We did some research. We had Minnesota School Association look at it. And this is what we came up with in the policy. So do you have any specific questions?
Thank you very much. Anybody from the policy committee? Board Member Yurts?
Yes, thank you. We did review that at the last policy meeting. It should be in the minutes. It was consensus of the committee that we should move forward with it, and we're just gonna go back to Ann and Carson to review it and bring it to the board to make sure everything met. That wording was actually totally correct, I believe.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yes, and we opted to have it be a formal policy added to all of our policies versus just procedures put into a handbook, because it functionally is a policy. So that's why we have to do the 3 readings.
Yeah, and it's, as a board member, on many different boards I've been on, it's sad to see how some board members around the country have been treated based upon their commitment to helping their youth in their area. So it's sad to me to see that, but it is what it is, and we'll deal with it. Here, as hope the rest of them, I'm sure will deal with them themselves. So, thank you very much on that.
One thing that we, just to point out, one of the things that the policy includes is information that if people have, concerns that they want to bring to the superintendent or to board members or to their teachers, that social media is not really the place, that you can't expect that your kid's teacher is following your school's Facebook page and will respond when, if you tag them in something like that. Then that goes for board members as well, that, sometimes some of us are tagged in a certain post and we may not see it because we may not be on there. But of course, we're checking our school emails and those types of things. So just giving that reiteration that there are the appropriate ways to contact all of us or whoever the appropriate person might be for your concerns, that we definitely want to address them, but a Facebook conversation may not be the way to go.
Thank you. Ann, go ahead.
Just also, so on each of the school websites, we'll have a general couple of paragraphs that tell people, explain a summary, and that there'll be a link to our standard policy so that when each, for instance, if a principal, let's say a principal were to retire or something like that, we can change that part on their website without our having to go back all the way through the policy and change everything. And then the full policy doesn't have to be on every single site because it's pretty detailed, but it gives people a link so that they can find out what they need. Yep. And then I do just have a quick related thing that I wanted to, this is not just us. It is social media, and I don't know if you were aware, but YouTube has a pretty strict misinformation policy. They implemented it with the election, and now they have a specific one for COVID. And they did remove the Red Wing School District, not the streaming version that had all of our committee meetings and whatnot from August 16th, but the board meeting that was just condensed, and that's the one where you were talking about the masking policy. That one was removed by YouTube, so it is no longer the standalone one on our website. There's apparently two reasons. One is because our YouTube channel is labeled for children, because children do use it to come on and look at things from the school. And the other reason is because of apparently some comments that people made in the comment section about COVID. And the YouTube policy, just like the Facebook policy, that we make clear that we do follow policies. There is a risk too that you just need to be aware of, that if for instance, let's just say that you had 3 meetings in a row where people talked about COVID and that went against what the World Health Organization or what the CDC or Minnesota Department of Health said was factual. With 3 violations in 90 days, YouTube can delete or could delete our account. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but just so that's why it's really important that we follow these social media platform policies and that we have one of our own. So.
Okay, thanks for the update. Go ahead.
Yeah, if there is a situation where some misinformation is shared, what do we not record that? What do we do? Or do we record it and then it's one of the 3, or two now or one left? Does anybody know?
Well, a couple districts have made the decision that during this time they are not going to have public comment period anymore, because you don't have to have one by law. You guys have always been pretty transparent and open about comments. There are one or two districts just said that we're not going to record that part of our meeting. And then some are just saying, well, we're going to only take submitted comments on certain things that are, for instance, like elections, to pick something that's not current. You could say, well, we're not going to take comments about the election during this period, not to stifle free speech, but because we don't want we need our meeting to be public. So you guys would have to you might want to look at some of those options. Otherwise, just,
Good information. Thank you.
It almost, just real quick, Roger, Brian, it almost feels like, based on our topics, we would have to switch up public comment, maybe. So like, if there was a topic that we knew might be controversial, then that public comment period would be submitted prior, or, I mean, it's just something to think about as we're moving forward. Carson, do you know if all public comments have to be done the same way if you do them, or switch it up from meeting to meeting?
Like Ann said, there is no requirement set by the state of Minnesota to have public comment. And so we just need to come up with a set of rules that we consistently follow at every meeting. So we can determine what meetings we allow it, if we record it or not, if we live stream or not. The goal of public comment is for board members to hear what people have to say. And so one reasonable compromise might be to allow public comment, but then start the recording and the live streaming after the public comment, or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I kind of picked up on, one or the other.
Yeah.
Either not allow it, I guess, or just start the streaming and recording after that. So it just shows you, go ahead.
I think we have that laid out in our policies, how we do the comment. I might be wrong on that, but I think if we want to make a change, we better make sure that what the policy actually states. I think it's what we usually read in front of it, I think, is what the policy is, but I'm going by memory. And I could be wrong again.
No,
but I think it's there, and that's how we're doing it. But I know what Carson alluded to. One area district, I believe, does take the public comment, not more than half an hour is allowed, and it's prior to the start of the meeting. So that I think it'd be great for our communications people to come up with what they recommend if there should be a change.
Okay.
Yep. It just kind of shows you, I don't do Facebook, I do that before. Things you put out there in social media stay with you for a long time. So
I would just say that, about the public comment, that I would not be a proponent of not having public comment. I feel like we need to keep it as an option for our community. But the other options, I appreciate.
I think it's good that we heard that we got barred because of public comment, for us to look at how we want to do public comment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Barred is the right word, Ann, or is that?
We got strike.
Strike.
We got
Strike
struck. One strike.
We're the bottom of the third inning right now.
Oh.
We got to move around here. We got to light this one out here. We're not moving around enough. There we go. Okay. Anybody else have anything more on, anybody, Ann or Superintendent Anderson or board member, anything more on the posting?
Yeah, if anyone has questions or comments, they can certainly reach out to Ann or me, and then we'll consider that as we bring it for second reading and then ultimately approval.
Very good.
Thanks, Ann.
Yep, thank you. Upcoming meetings, schedules there. Future topics, I think we have a workshop list available that coming up down the road. Different topics. The next board meeting is, the 18th of October.
Do we, Carson, or Superintendent Anderson, sorry, do we know what the workshop topic is for October? I feel like I should know it, but is it a finance thing?
Yeah, it should. Is it listed in the that background information sheet?
Let me look.
And just while you're looking there, starting this month now, we moved the agenda committee meeting to the Wednesday after the most recent board meeting. For one, is a scheduling issue to their role, and just made it give the staff more time to come up with information for the next board meeting. And it really will, I think it'll be good, not having to try to rush to get stuff posted onto the board review. And we can discuss those at the agenda committee if there's anybody have anything that they pressing that want to move on the list.
Yeah, I'm sorry I don't have the workshop schedule at my fingertips.
I have workshop schedules for October if you'd like me to repeat them.
Yes, please.
Meeting schedule and format, equity, achievement and integration, and equity with district communications, including feedback protocols to hear all voices in the community.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay. Anybody have anything else? No. Any motion to adjourn? Member Tower, or a second?
Second.
Member Ossendorf? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Oh, we're adjourned.
Put that on record. Move your gavel.